Imagine a place designed for healing, silence, and inner balance. A place where the noise of the modern world fades into birdsong and wind through trees, where visitors arrive broken, exhausted, or searching for peace, believing that isolation and nature will restore what life has taken from them. But what if some places absorb more than pain? What if they remember it? Welcome back to True Terror Files Official, where we document true disturbing encounters that blur the line between comfort and fear. And before we begin, if you're drawn to true ghost stories, psychological horror, and real unexplained phenomena, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss what lurks in the shadows. Now ask yourself this: what happens when a place meant to calm the soul instead awakens something ancient, something restless, something that never found peace? Rural wellness sanctuaries have exploded in popularity throughout the 2020s as people flee cities seeking quiet and clarity. Often built on old land, abandoned estates, or forgotten villages, these sanctuaries promise detoxification, meditation, and emotional rebirth. But isolation has always been a breeding ground for the unexplained. When the human mind slows down, the world around it grows louder, every sound sharper, every shadow deeper. Staff members at several remote retreats began reporting sensations that didn't align with exhaustion or imagination. Whispers during guided meditations, sudden temperature drops in sealed rooms, feelings of being watched from empty hallways, guests waking with unexplained dread or memories that weren't their own. Management dismissed it as stress or suggestion, but the reports kept coming, not from one sanctuary, but from several, each separated by miles of countryside, yet bound by the same unsettling pattern, the same quiet terror creeping beneath wellness and healing. Tonight we're sharing 3 true ghost stories from rural sanctuaries that became something else entirely. Places where the promise of peace collapsed into something cold and observing. And as we move forward, remember this: ghosts don't always appear in abandoned hospitals or broken down houses. Sometimes they wait where people come to heal, because pain leaves echoes, and some echoes never fade. Willow Creek Retreat was tucked deep into forested countryside, marketed as a sanctuary for trauma, recovery, and mindfulness. The buildings were minimal, wood and glass designed to blend into nature, and silence was considered part of the therapy. One senior therapist, a woman with over a decade of clinical experience, reported the first incident during a late evening meditation session. While guiding a group through breathwork, she heard a whisper behind her, low and deliberate, calling her name. Assuming a participant was distressed, she turned around to find everyone seated, eyes closed, breathing steadily. She dismissed it until it happened again the following night, this time accompanied by a sudden cold sensation wrapping around her arms, as though someone had stepped directly behind her. Over the following weeks, multiple therapists began noticing cold zones in the meditation hall, spots where breath fogged even during warm evenings. Guests complained of pressure headaches only when entering certain rooms. One participant abruptly left the retreat after claiming someone sat beside her during a silent session and whispered, "You, Dan, belong here." Security footage revealed nothing, but logs showed the hall lights flickering at the same time each night. Always at 2:17 a.m., staff started reporting the feeling of being watched while walking the woodland paths. One groundskeeper claimed he saw a silhouette standing between trees where no trail existed. It vanished when approached. The most disturbing incident occurred when the lead therapist returned alone to the hall to collect notes and heard rhythmic breathing echoing through the empty room, slow and heavy, coming from the far corner. When she turned on the lights, nothing was there. Yet the cold spot remained. Management eventually discovered the land had once housed a secluded convalescent home in the early 1900s for patients suffering from psychological trauma. Records showed several deaths attributed to melancholic withdrawal, a term often used to mask suicide. Willow Creek shut down its overnight programs within a year, citing restructuring, but locals say the forest still goes unnaturally silent near the old hall, as though something inside is still listening. Harmony Heights Haven prided itself on isolation. Perched on a remote hillside with individual cabins spread across acres of rolling land, guests were encouraged to disconnect entirely. No phones, no clocks, no distractions. One guest, a middle-aged man attending a grief recovery program, began noticing another figure walking the paths near his cabin at night. Assuming it was another guest struggling with sleep, he nodded politely when passing, but the figure never responded, always walking just out of reach. Over several nights, the encounters continued. Sometimes the figure stood motionless near the tree line. Sometimes it appeared reflected in the cabin window behind him. When the guest finally mentioned it to staff, they were confused. Records showed no one else assigned to that sector of cabins. Staff escorted him back to the area and confirmed the surrounding cabins were empty and locked. That night, the guest walked a footsteps circling his cabin, slow and deliberate, stopping at his window. When he opened the door, the hillside was empty, yet the grass was flattened, as if someone had been standing there. Other guests later admitted they'd felt presences watching during evening walks. One instructor reported seeing a reflection in the yoga studio mirrors that didn't match anyone in the room. Historical research later revealed the land once held a homestead where a family lived in near total isolation. Census records abruptly ended, and local folklore spoke of a walker on the hill. Harmony Heights remains operational, but certain cabins are no longer rented, and guests are quietly discouraged from walking alone after dark. Solstice Springs was older than the others, built around a natural spring believed by indigenous groups to possess spiritual properties. The retreat embraced this history, offering ceremonial wellness experiences, but staff began noticing disturbances in the main lodge after renovations uncovered sealed stonework beneath the floors. Objects moved overnight, chairs rearranged, doors unlocking themselves. Several employees witnessed shadow figures crossing hallways after closing. One maintenance worker quit after seeing a reflection in the spring's surface that wasn't his own. Security logs showed motion sensors triggering with no physical presence detected. The most disturbing incident occurred when multiple staff members reported seeing a woman standing near the spring late at night. Her appearance faded and indistinct, always facing the water. When approached, she vanished. Historians later confirmed oral traditions describing the spring as a site of ritual mourning, a place where grief was believed to sink into the earth. Solstice Springs continues to operate, but nighttime access to the spring is now prohibited, officially for safety reasons. Though staff know better, why do places of healing attract such disturbances? Psychologists suggest heightened emotional vulnerability may amplify perception, while paranormal researchers argue emotional energy imprints environments, especially where suffering once concentrated. Rural isolation strips away distractions, leaving the mind open and exposed. Perhaps these sanctuaries don't create hauntings, but reveal them. The land remembers, and when people arrive seeking peace, they unknowingly listen to echoes left behind. So ask yourself this: if peace requires silence, what happens when silence answers back? Thank you for watching True Terror Files Official. If these stories unsettled you, subscribe, because this was only the beginning.